الزميل جون كيري وزير خارجية الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية في زيارته الخامسة أو السادسة إلى المملكة الأردنية الهاشمية في أقل من 5 أشهر. وتشرفنا قبل قليل بلقاء سيدي صاحب الجلالة الملك عبد الله الثاني بن حسين المعظم، وكذلك كان هناك لقاء في وزارة الخارجية وشؤون المغتربين صباح اليوم مع الوفد الوزاري المكلف من قبل لجنة مبادرة السلام العربية للتواصل مع الجانب الأمريكي. كان لنا اجتماع في نهاية شهر نيسان الماضي في واشنطن، واتفقنا في ذلك الاجتماع على أن نستمر في التواصل الدوري مع وزير الخارجية جون كيري للتباحث والتداول في آخر ما يستجد من جهود يبذله هو شخصيا فيما يتعلق بإحياء مفاوضات السلام. وكان لقاء ممتازا في الحقيقة. كان في صدر بيان وأكيد طلعت عليه بتوجيه التقدير الكبير للإدارة الأمريكية ممثلة بالرئيس باراك أوباما وبوزير الخارجية جون كيري على هذا الالتزام بتحقيق السلام في الشرق الأوسط والوصول إلى حل الدولتين الذي يضمن إقامة الدولة الفلسطينية المستقلة والأمن والأمان والاستقرار والازدهار لكافة دول المنطقة. فكان الهدف من اجتماع اليوم هو الاطلاع والاستماع، الاطلاع على والاستماع إلى ما استجد من أمور، وخاصة في الجهود المكثفة التي يبذلها الوزير كيري مع الأطراف المعنية. وكان مرة أخرى هناك تقدير كبير لهذا الجهد المميز اللي يبذله، وسيطلعكم بطبيعة الحال على آخر المستجدات في هذا الشأن. واتفقنا أيضا على إدامة التواصل بيننا كوفد وزاري مكلف من لجنة مبادرة السلام العربية مع الإدارة الأمريكية. كان هناك فرصة أيضا للحديث حول آخر المستجدات والتطورات في المنطقة، الملف السوري وآخر التطورات، واهتمام كبير من الوزير كيري للوصول إلى حل سياسي الذي لطالما نادينا به هنا في الأردن. موقف جلالة الملك والمملكة الأردنية الهاشمية معروف بأنه وقف العنف مطلوب ووقف الدمار مطلوب، وحل سياسي يضمن الانتقال إلى ما يحقق الأمن لسوريا والحفاظ على وحدة أراضيها وعلى سيادتها وكرامة شعبها العريق. الجهود التي بذلها الوزير كيري في لقاءاته مع المسؤولين الروس قبل أشهر والتفاهم الذي وصلوا إليه من حيث ضرورة عقد مؤتمر دولي للدخول في هذا الحل السياسي كان أمر مشجع للغاية. وهناك كان لقاءات في عمان وفي اسطنبول وفي روما وفي الدوحة لما نسميه مجموعة ال11 أو مجموعة لندن، تم في الوصول إلى توافق حول الطريق إلى الأمام. فنثمن عاليا هذه الجهود. وهناك أيضا تركيز كبير واهتمام من قبل وزير كيري للتداعيات الإنسانية للأزمة السورية على المملكة الأردنية الهاشمية والعبء الكبير الذي يتحمل الأردن في استضافة ما يقارب 550,000 لاجئ سوري على أراضيه. ومنها على هذا المنبر أود أن أعبر عن تقدير المملكة الأردنية الهاشمية للإدارة الأمريكية وكل الجهات المعنية على الدعم الذي قدموه للأردن للمساعدة في استضافة اللاجئين. نقول دائما بأن هذا الدعم مقدر، وهناك دعم كبير جاء من دول أخرى ومن منظمات دولية، ولكن ما زال غير كافي لتمكين الأردن من استقبال اللاجئين ومن تقديم الرعاية المطلوبة، وخاصة في القطاعات الحساسة التي تأثرت من جراء هذا التدفق الكبير للاجئين السوريين. ونتحدث بشكل واضح عن الصحة والطاقة والمياه والتعليم وأيضا قطاع العمالة. فلذلك نقدر الدعم الذي قدمته الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، ونقدر جهدهم في السعي في كافة المحافل الدولية لحث الدول المانحة والمنظمات الدولية على مساعدة الأردن في هذا النقاط. وكان أيضا هناك حديث عن ملفات أخرى ذات الائتمان المشترك، وخاصة العلاقات الثنائية بين الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية والمملكة الأردنية الهاشمية. هذه العلاقات التاريخية المميزة، وجلالة الملك المعظم حفظه الله كان له لقاء مؤخرا مع الرئيس الأمريكي باراك أوباما في واشنطن، وكان قبل ذلك هناك زيارة للرئيس أوباما إلى الأردن. كان لقاءين حقيقة في فترة زمنية لا تزيد عن 4 أو 5 أسابيع. هذا يدل على الاهتمام المشترك من قبل جلالة الملك والرئيس الأمريكي على إدامة التواصل والتشاور، ويعكس العلاقات المميزة. ونقدر دائما المساعدات الأمريكية في كافة القطاعات التي نجددها دائما، ونقول بأنها تعكس العلاقات التاريخية ومحل تقدير كبير من قبل كافة الأردن. مرة أخرى أرحب بجون كاري الصديق والشخص المطلع الذي تتحدث خبرته عن نفسه حقيقة، وخاصة فيما يتعلق بالملفات الحساسة في منطقتنا، بخبرته الطويلة وبحكمته وبالتزامه وبالجهد المكثف الذي يبذل. الحقيقة أنه هناك بريق من الأمل، وخاصة في ملف السلام بين الفلسطينيين والإسرائيليين. أترك المجال لمعالي وزير الخارجية الأمريكي للحديث.
Well, Mr. Foreign Minister,
we can't hear you. Thank you.
Ramadan Kareem. Maybe it's because of Ramadan. It's an honor to be here with all of you. Thank you very, very much. And particularly, I'm pleased to be back here with my friend Nasser. We really are good friends. Sometimes that word is used in this business and it's thrown around lightly, but he and I have had the pleasure of spending a great deal of time together well before I became Secretary of State, when I was a senator. And I appreciate his energy, his knowledge, and his commitment to solving difficult problems. He is not a foreign minister who sits bashfully on the sidelines. He's willing to tackle tough issues. And the reason I find myself here again is not just the privilege of meeting with the Arab Peace Initiative Follow-Up Committee, which was a very important meeting, as Nasser said, but also because Jordan is so engaged in meeting its own challenges here at home, but also helping to deal with challenges around it. And this is a region which, for better or worse, is not particularly quiet these days. There's a lot going on with Syria, Egypt, Iran, the challenges of the Middle East peace process, and all of the normal challenges of economies and of the modern world. So I'm here to follow up with the Arab Peace Initiative Follow-On Committee. I made a promise when we met in Washington earlier in April. I promised that we would keep up with our efforts on the Middle East and that I would brief them regularly. And since they traveled to Washington last time to come for a very important announcement, I came here this time in order to be able to meet with everybody and make it easier for their travel. We continued the conversation today that we began in Washington. I think everybody knows that the Arab Peace Committee and the Arab League itself, Secretary General Nabil Al-Arabi was here today, has really long played a very important role in the path leading to the Arab Peace Initiative. And the Arab Peace Initiative, which King Abdullah put forward a number of years ago, I have said before, was a very important departure point, and one which never received the full attention and focus that it should have. I'm glad that it is today. because it promises to open up significant potential for normalized relations, for the potential for trade and growth in historic and very important ways. And it promises Israel. Israel needs to look hard at this initiative, which promises Israel peace with 22 Arab nations and 35 Muslim nations, a total of 57 nations that are standing and waiting for the possibility of making peace with Israel. Their willingness that they brought to Washington in April was very significant, because at that time they not only restated the commitment to a two-state solution, the only solution that is real, but they also included the potential of land swaps as a mechanism for achieving that solution. And that was another historic moment and historic departure by the Arab community. It underscores what all of us really know, and that is that peace would benefit not only the security and opportunity and legitimate aspirations of both Israelis and Palestinians, but very significantly, it would contribute enormously to the stability and the prosperity throughout the entire region. Every country in the region, and particularly Jordan, the neighbor of Palestine and of Israel, which already cooperates in many ways to help create stability and peace, would also benefit enormously from progress. Peace is in the common interest of everybody in this region. And as many ministers said to me today in the meeting that we had, many of them, they said that the core issue of instability to resolve that is through direct negotiations. And the only ones who can make that happen are not President Obama, John Kerry, Nasser Judah, but it is the parties themselves. They have to make that decision. I have stayed in very close contact with both Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Abbas. And I know that despite everything else that is happening in the region, despite all of the pressures of neighboring states, of refugees, of conflict, despite the pressures of a volatile neighborhood, the fact is that both sides continue to work up to this point in good faith, in a good effort, in order to try to find a way to succeed. Now, when this process started several months ago, there were very wide gaps, very significant gaps between the two sides. And I think Nasser would agree with me that through hard and deliberate, patient work, and most importantly through quiet work, we have been able to narrow those gaps very significantly. And so we continue to get closer, and I continue to remain hopeful that the sides will soon be able to come to sit at the same table. Now, there are still some elements and some language that needs to be agreed upon and worked out. This is normal. And I'm not going to detail the specifics, but as this important, quiet process continues to unfold, I want to make sure that we keep it quiet, because that's honestly the only way that it works. And everybody has agreed on that. I would caution everybody to resist the temptation to speculate about where things stand or what is possible. The easiest bet among Middle East prognosticators has always been on predicting impasse. That's always been the easiest bet, and I understand that. But I also know that through the efforts that are being made now, the best hope for a different outcome is to have a quiet process that is working the way the parties are working now. And I congratulate them both for doing that. It is fair to say that that initiative, peace within the Middle East and the Arab-Israeli conflict, has always been one of the most difficult challenges on the face of the planet. Decades of close calls, of near breakthroughs, and many disappointments make it very clear how tough it is. But while the conflict has indeed persisted for a long time, it is more and more true today than ever before that the time to resolve it is narrowing. So that's why Nasser and I and King Abdullah, President Obama, all of us joined together in encouraging both sides to think very carefully about their words and their actions. That's why we encourage them to promote trust and not to take steps that would undermine that trust. And that's why we urge everybody to remain committed to creating a climate that is conducive to a peace that is worthy of the people that they all represent. In my meetings yesterday and today, we also talked about our continuing concerns with Syria. Syria is one of the principal reasons that I came out here to talk now. We had a good conversation with a number of different ministers about that, and also with King Abdullah today. And we will continue our conversations both later and tomorrow morning in order to discuss the challenges that lie ahead. We're very, very grateful. We, the United States, the global community, are very grateful to Jordan and to King Abdullah, to all the citizens of the Hashemite Kingdom. We thank you for having the hearts and the willingness to open your arms to so many refugees. We know it is very, very difficult. It's a challenge. And the generosity that you have shown is an example really to the world. And we understand that it puts a strain on your society. It has an impact on work, on workers, on wages, on housing, on all of these issues, water, everything is affected. And so we all have an obligation to try to help and to meet your needs, and we will try to live up to that obligation. We discussed today the United States' ongoing financial support and other efforts to help Jordan and others to care for the Syrians who've been driven from their homes by the violence. And we also discussed coordination on issues in the days ahead, and all of us, all the ministers here today, still agree that a political solution is the only real solution ultimately to the challenge of Syria. Our shared focus remains on how to achieve that, and we all need to work together to strengthen the opposition and to create a dialogue that puts the people of Syria ahead of any sectarian interest, ahead of any party interest, and certainly ahead of any personal interest. Now, one final thing I will say quickly. We also, needless to say, discussed Egypt. The challenge of Egypt is very real. Egypt is important, and it's important that I came here to discuss it because Egypt is vital to the security of the region. It is vital to some of the flow of supplies to the region. It is vital to the security of the Sinai. It is vital to the security of Gaza and to the maintenance of the Gaza ceasefire. And in the end, it is also vital to the peace treaty between it and Israel. And I stand in another country that has had the courage to sign a peace treaty and that is working towards peace. So that's why it was important that we discuss this. We remain broadly committed to an inclusive democratic process in Egypt. And I think all of, we all today committed ourselves to embrace the notion that all groups, all parties, all points of view, all religions, all minorities need to be welcomed and accepted into the political solution and the political future of Egypt. And we were very pleased to see the increasing commitment day to day to making sure that Egypt will move rapidly to the constitutional process that will guarantee the democracy for all of its citizens. So I thank you again for the privilege of being here, Nasser. Thank you for your help on so many different issues. We look forward to taking two questions.